Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Mr. Henry Does Java. Today we're going to look at importing math operations. Hopefully it'll make more sense as we go along, but important to be able to manipulate variables or numbers, get answers you want, things like that. So first of all, a couple things to remember here. This is just kind of some review. Look over these for just a minute or so and see what you know. Okay, so this first one, if you remember, is what we called absolute value. An absolute value is a distance from zero. Distances are always positive. So the answer to that is just 5. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5 is because they're both 5 units from 0. Okay, 4 to the third power. 4 times 4 times 4. 16, hopefully 64, if I did my math correct. Square root. Square root of 64 is 8. I don't know. Okay, good, we are still recording. So the square root of 64 is 8. Now remember from yesterday, this is module. Okay, so 30 divided by 4 is 7, right? With a remainder of 2. So the answer to this is 2. Now we also can't forget our very important order of operations. Okay. Remember they go from left to right. So parentheses, no, we don't have any of that. But multiplication and division come before addition and subtraction. So 27 module 4. If I go over here, 27, 4 divided by 27 goes in 6 times nicely with 3 remaining. So this would be 3. 8 times 6 is 48. If I add those together, I get 51. Okay, if I want to round 5.6 to the nearest integer, I look at the 0.6. That rounds up till I get 6. Okay, so just some kind of basic math review there. All right, so math class. It does something you have to import at the beginning of the program. It contains keywords that do special math operations. Okay, that are basically that are harder, sorry, than just addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, stuff like that. So this is a kind of like an add-on almost, if you will. So this is going to be important. So you import it at the beginning of your program using that. And so when you call it in your program, here are some examples. ABS would be absolute value. SQRT would be square root. Round would be rounding it. Now that's going to round it up or down depending on where it's at. And then POW, POW, is power. Key thing to remember here is base is the big number. Exponent is the small number. So whatever you put in there. And there's things you put in there could be numbers that are always going to stay the same that you define, or they can be variables that are inputted by the user. All right. So here's some examples. So notice we're defining some of our variables here, right? Okay. So the first one is asking you for absolute value of A. A was negative 5.0. So the absolute value would be 5.0. Okay. Square root, remember B up here was 144. The square root of 144 is 12. If we were asked to round C, C was 4.6, so just like the initial one, that would be 5. If we do AD with power, or POW, it says negative 5 is the base because that's the first number. Remember, it's base, comma, exponent. And 3 is the second number. So negative 5 to the third power, which is negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5, which is negative 125. Okay, so as sample, let's look what's happening here. So first thing we're doing is, this is just importing the class, right? I don't even know why I'm writing that. You can't read that, it's messy. So we're naming our program. We're doing this thing here. Okay, we're defining our variables here. Okay, notice the camel case. So we're calculating exponent. We're calling this variable now. We're using a math operation. Okay, with the base -5 and the exponent 3. So hopefully this is now going to turn into, I'm guessing, -125. So this should read out base, which was what? -5, right? Okay. To the power of, and then it says exponent, which we know was 3, equals, and to calculate exponent, -125, period. Okay. So that's what would print out on the screen. So this is probably an important screen to look at when you're writing your own code. Okay, some Pythagorean theorem review here. Remember, any right triangle determined by a right angle there. We have two legs, A and B, and we have hypotenuse C. Hypotenuse is always across. The Pythagorean theorem basically says, or does say, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so what we do then also, and these are really the same thing, all we're doing from the left to the right is isolating c, which is square rooting both sides. But you see, the computer's not going to know how to solve for c unless we write it in a way that c is already isolated. So this is going to be important as you try to write a program that asks the user to enter two lengths of a right triangle, computes the hypotenuse of the right triangle, rounds the hypotenuse, uses at least one comment, prints out the value of the hypotenuse and the rounded value in a sentence. So you're going to have the two values there, the rounded and the non-rounded. Okay, now think about it this way. Remember I said c equals square root, well, we have that command, of a squared plus b squared. We should know how to do bases and exponents. So your bases are the two legs, and your exponent's always 2, so that doesn't have to be a variable. And then you have the square root. So that is program number 5.